Thank you so much. First of all, warm greetings from Skopje to the people who managed to be there in person. I regret personally for not being there in person to enjoy the Montenegrin hospitality. I'd like to thank the organizers for initiating this exchange, a timely one, I think. I'd like to underscore how much we appreciate the efforts of Ljubljana, the Slovenian presidency with the Council of the EU, for putting enlargement so high on the agenda during their 6 months, for organizing the summit, for essentially delivering the word enlargement written in the summit declaration. It's been a while, although it's enlargement process, as we all know, and for trying to shift the debate also to include the strategic dimension of the process of the accession of our 6 countries to the European Union. I'll try to be brief, but touch upon many of the points that were mentioned. I am glad that I can probably subscribe to everything that has been already said by the previous speakers. I think the more we talk using the same messages, the louder the region is and the more we will be heard. So I heard several speakers talked about the geographic argument, the fact that once we all join the region, the map of the EU will stay the same, meaning our region is already encircled by member states. And this geographic argument has very significant consequences in other dimensions, the economic one, the political one, security, even climate and environment. The European continent cannot be carbon neutral by 2050 if the region is not fully covered in all the actions and the measures and the support for making our economies greener. Security dimension, we saw how important our region was in the migration crisis of 2015 and 16. It was very much an integral part of EU's own security. All the global threats, let's say the threat of terrorism, that fight will have to include the region. State Secretary Dovzhan mentioned that in the Slovenian perspective, the conference on the future of Europe is also about making our continent and making the EU more resilient. And I think we should underline this point that if the region is marginalized, if the enlargement is left parked somewhere on the road, then it's going to be difficult for the EU to increase its resilience for many reasons. It was the economic and investment package was mentioned, the 9 billion of grants that will attract additional 20 billion euros in investment in the region. We are economically already in the same boat. 3/4 of the trade with the region is with the EU. The big countries here are notably Germany and Italy in particular. 3/4 of the foreign direct investment that comes to the region are companies from the member states of the European Union. There is a significant trade deficit of the region with the EU. Annually, it is estimated to be between 7.5 and 9.7 billion euros. According to an international study, the cost of brain drain from the region to the EU member states is estimated at 9 billion euros in educational costs and loss of potential GDP growth. So I think we have a lot to do. It is obvious that we need to jumpstart or restart enlargement. It is important that there was a very significant political message coming from Brdo, the summit of the EU and the region, but it is really high time to see action, to see deeds that will match those words and the commitments made. North Macedonia is a country that has waited a lot. We actually, I think, perfected resilience when it comes to the accession process. We signed the association agreement 20 years ago. We've been a candidate country since 2005. 16 years ago, our first recommendation that we are ready to start the talks took place 12 years ago in 2009. It's really time to start. As the report of the Commission underlines, we are more than ready to start the journey. I think we are comparable even to the countries who are in the process for a long time, our friends from Podgorica and Belgrade, be it about the readiness of the fundamental cluster, be it about, let's say, cluster 4, where the Commission recommends for Serbia to open that cluster. So I think maybe a few words on why regional cooperation matters. First of all, when look from Brussels, from Berlin, from Paris, from other European capitals, especially the public opinions in those countries, it is not easy to distinguish between one and another country from the Western Balkans. Bad news from one country affects the perception on the whole region. Good news from one of us affects positively the perception on the whole region. The decision makers are asking themselves if the 6 countries from the region will bring more solutions and additional value, or they will create additional problems and debates from the perspective of the functionality of the complicated decision-making process in the European Union. If we are able to solve our issues, if we are able to cooperate, if we are able to make our region more attractive, also economically, for instance, by working on the regional common market in the framework of the Berlin process, then we give arguments to those political forces in the European Union that this is actually worth doing. And I know that we are short on time. Maybe a few words on our national journey. In these last years, we are a country that has been making progress in terms of the strength of our democracy, in terms of the rule of law, in terms of the freedom of our media. We invested enormous political capital and leadership to solve the issue that was holding us back. This is the name issue with our neighbors in Greece. We concluded the PRESPA agreement. And I think it is really time for the EU to deliver if the EU wants for the European political ticket to be a winning ticket in the Balkans. When promises are made and those are not met, we have a very significant issue of trust. With the loss of trust, there is also a loss of leverage. And I think the EU should not afford losing leverage in a region that is geographically in its midst. There is a lot of talk about strategic autonomy. There is a lot of talk about how to make the EU a more prominent global player. And I think the test is first to become a local player and show that you can make a difference for the better in a region where you have all the instruments that you need to be able to increase also the credibility, how the EU is seen beyond the European continent. I'll stop here. Thank you.